Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Purse First, the only podcast exclusively about the girls and the gays that rap. I am Sesali, also known as Bad Fat Black Girl, also known as the Trap Authoress, period.
Yes. And I am Prince Pierre, also known as Gail. What's Gail last name?
King.
Gail King. Why was I going to say Gail Weathers? Is that
I
from
don't know.
the Scream movies?
That's another, I think it's
What was
another anchor
what
name.
was
Whether.
Gail name from the Scream movies?
I don't know.
There was a Gail. You don't know. But hey, y'all.
Hi. How are you, friends?
I am really good. It's a good week. A lot of exciting things are happening.
It's a good week. It's a
It's
good week.
um
I mean, honestly, let me just jump ahead because we just need to get into the episode. Y'all follow us on social media at Purse First Show. Make sure y'all are giving us 5-star ratings and writing reviews if you like shows about the rap girls and the rap gays and the history and culture of female and queer rap. You can also watch this episode on YouTube at our official Purse First YouTube channel. All links below. Make sure you subscribe there.
we got a very special guest today, and
Ah!
for those of you who do not know, I am the biggest fan of our next guest. Like I've been a fan of hers for a very long time. She's a journalist, a podcast host, social media personality, author, and overall such an amazing person and friend of mine. I often refer to her as one of the baddest bitches I know. And ironically, she's here today to talk about her latest adventure in writing as one of the co-writers, co-authors of Trina's memoir, The Baddest. Please welcome to the show, Sesali Bowen, my bitch from Chicago. Oh, I got a
Y'all.
book too. I got a book too.
Y'all. It's truly unfucking believable. The key of it all. Well, thanks for having me on your little podcast, Pierre.
The little podcast that could. Thank you for joining me.
Y'all getting big guests now.
You are you the girl. You the girl.
Y'all getting big guests
Cecily.
now. Shit.
Cecily. Oh my
Authors and
God.
stuff, so respectable.
Before we dive into Trina's memoir, which I have right here, I always want to show love to like what broke your published author virginity, which is Notes from a Trap Feminist.
Period.
Um, First, I want to ask you how has that journey been like as an author? Before, for those who don't know, Trina book just came out 2 days ago on the 8th, October 8th. This is Cecily's second adventure into writing books. So I want to talk about the first adventure, which is Notes from a Trap Feminist. So how has that journey been? How does it feel? I know like people walk up to you all the time, like, I've read your book. So how does that feel?
So that's honestly the best part about it because like the publishing industry itself is honestly kind of ghetto. Like not gonna hold you. But and so it is really that feeling of like having people like share. I get like DMs all the time of people who are just like, I'm reading this book, Notes from a Trap Feminist. It really just broke something open for me. Like it is like teaching me so much about myself, or like I'm really trying to just like, like people are reading my book and like feeling activated. And like that is how a good book makes you feel, especially a nonfiction book. Like a good nonfiction book like calls you to action usually in some type of way, or leaves you more informed than when you left it. And so yeah, that's honestly the best part about being an author, particularly an author in the space of like culture and hip hop. I'm also very proud of the fact that like I've written like black books. I know, I mean, like, I don't know. I guess
Oh,
that sounds weird to say, but like I don't know, like I mean, not, I don't know how I would have written any other kind of book, but like, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is like, I guess it could have been very easy for me to like write a book that was like more tame about like the history of women in hip hop, a book that was not necessarily overtly black or something like that. But like, I'm very proud of the fact that both of these books are like not only black, but like a very certain type of black. They very much so honor like black women who are like marginalized, whose stories don't get told. And I think for Notes from a Trap Feminist, like I coined trap feminism. So like, you
Yes.
know, not to, you know,
Toot
but
it,
like,
toot it,
yeah,
toot
like
it.
I really do have to like, because so for those of y'all who don't know, like that book has paid off for me the most, not in what I get paid from the book. I haven't made any royalties from that book yet because it hasn't sold out the advance. That's how book deals work. But that book has actually been busting for me because people teach that book. So like in their
Yes.
feminist studies courses, in their hip hop studies courses, in their gender and sexuality courses, in their media studies courses, like they're teaching trap feminism. I've been able to have conversations with Joan Morgan, who was the person who coined hip hop feminism, right? And I've seen my book as a direct follow up to her book, like to have her like have read this text and engage with it and embrace me as like, yes, this was the necessary next step. Like that's the flex to me, because you know Pierre and I we are not elitist, right? And so we don't get on Purse First every week and shove down y'all throat like, you know, and here's the smart political ways that you should be thinking about this. But at the end of the day, like that is the lens that I approach all of this with. Like we don't just love female rap because it sounds good. We love female rap because it represents something. It represents something to black women and the culture of black femmes, and it is a little bit deeper than that. It is very political. It is theoretical, and that is my background. I have a master's, I have a bachelor's and a master's in gender and
Yes.
sexuality study, in addition to just, you know, living my motherfucking life, right? Like, so in terms of that journey from the first book, that is the flex. I think transitioning into this book, I feel like it's been a testament to the different forms that my career can take.
Wow.
And the different perspectives that I'm able to offer on things like female rap and culture that other people might not immediately be tuned into. So
in the beginning of the copy that I received, because I have like an advanced copy,
exclusive,
it's very exclusive, very demure. In the beginning of this copy that I received, there's the page from one of the editors, You Done. And one of the things he writes is, how do you honor someone whose life and lyrics provide you with the language that helps you to tell your story? Do you remember what your answer was? Because I got it right here.
So, you know, for him, the answer to that question is the book. You know, it's like he poses that question to the people who get a copy of that book, because what he's saying is like what you're about to read is the answer. But I think, you know, I've always honored Trina. If y'all are OG listeners of Purse First, y'all have been listening since season 1 when we had Trina on the podcast. Y'all know that I've always honored Trina. If you know me, if you've known me at any point in my life since Nan came out, you know that I've always honored Trina. You know that I've always said like Trina raised me. Trina has been Trina was one of the early blueprints for, you know, the type of woman that I wanted to be. I always felt like she, you know, laid out a path forward that involved like putting yourself first, which is like such a radical option for Black women who are constantly taught to put other people before us. So I feel like I've always honored her, but I do think that there is something specific in just seeing something for her that she didn't necessarily think to do. Because for those of y'all who don't know, and I think this might, you know, not sure if this was going to be one of the
Yeah,
questions,
I was just
but
going to say it's
I
probably
approached
going.
Trina and asked her if she had ever thought about writing a book. And I used to joke. It's so fun. It's so funny. People like, well, I'll get to that later. But yes, so I thought that was a way to honor her as well. That like, hey, like I see what you mean in this culture. I see what I think is deeper than even what you have articulated, what other people have articulated for you. And like I think this is the next step. And that was another way of honoring her, honestly.
Yes, let's get to it. Like, what drew you to be the co-author of this book? Like, how did this collaboration come about? And I'm talking about like the real deal. Like, you just text Katrina and was like, "Girl, come on," or like.
So no, I did not just text Katrina. You know what? It's funny. It was actually a little bit of runaround. So first of all, let me back up because if people there are certain people who know me who know that I used to always say, like, when people would be like, what would be like your dream job, your dream project, especially on the writing side, like I would love to be the person who um goes to write Trina memoir. I would love to write Trina biography like that. And I used to just say it because it was like a very on brand thing for me. Like, okay, I'm a writer.
What?
I love Trina. I'm a writer. Literally in undergrad. I used to say shit like that in undergrad. Like I would be the writer of Trina's book. Like just talking shit, right? Baby, the power of that tongue. Baby. The power of that tongue. So when I finished writing my manuscript, one of the, I was figuring out and what I mean my manuscript, the manuscript for Notes from a Trap Feminist. Notes from a Trap Feminist. For those of y'all who don't know, I got that book deal right after I got laid off from Nightline. So everything that I was doing was kind of a what's next move. So I got laid off and was like, oh shit, what's next? Then 2 months later, I got my book deal. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write this book. I turned in a manuscript. It's still a year between when the manuscript is done and when the book come out. So I'm like, shit, what's next in that year? One of the things that I did in that time was come up with the idea for Purse First and get Pierre on the phone, like, we should do this. So that was one of my projects. And then I also was like, I should write. I want to revisit this idea of like writing Trina's. Like I was stepping back into the rap girl space because we were about to do Purse First. And I wanted to explore this idea of writing this, like making this book possible. So I had to first like get in contact with Trina. The first contact that I have like never got back to me. So I'm like, damn, I guess it might be a dud. And as y'all know, like we have connected with Trina before, but it's not always as simple as just, you don't just hit somebody up on the phone. You go through folks. Okay. So I finally get in touch with the person who is like, actually, well, I guess I shouldn't say that. You can text a lot of people about a lot of these artists. That doesn't mean that that's the person who actually is going to get the decision made about whether it happens.
Yeah, people as an artist, people text me all the time, and I'll be like, "Sure, period. Let's do it." But I promise you, like, I don't make no decisions in my life.
Yeah. So I want to give a shout out. To Neil Martinez Belkin, who is the co-author of Gucci Mane's autobiography and Rick Ross' autobiography. What? Me and him had connected on a Clubhouse throwback. A Clubhouse during the pandemic, somehow, just as writers. He also came from hip hop journalism and then got into this, writing these books for these artists. So it was literally like perfect trajectory. So I was like, you know what, let me hit Neil up and just, and I was like, yeah, I just kind of want to pick your brain just about the process. I actually wasn't even reaching out for no contact or nothing. And he was like, well, who's the subject that you have in mind? I was like, Trina. He was like, oh, well, reach out to this person because that's the person who will get it. He also know Ross, like whatever. And that's how I was finally able to like get in touch with her. And I just like laid it all out. I was like, I want to write this book. I think that your contributions are important. I think we should do it. I think it matters to the culture. Like, would you be interested? And she was like, I mean, yeah, like she was like, I hadn't thought about it, but I mean, yeah, like, why not? Like, you're not wrong. And because I already had a little bit of experience in publishing, because I had a book, I had a book agent. I was like, all right, like I can help. I'll get a proposal written. Let's see if we can get a deal. We got a deal. Here we are.
I am gagging, y'all, and keep in mind, Sesali asked me to do a pod. I didn't even think about it. I'm just like, okay, yeah, whatever. Basically, what she's saying about Trina, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I could just text Pia, y'all. I just text Pia.
I'll do the podcast.
Actually, didn't even text him. I DM'd him.
we do the podcast, and this is like one of our little secrets. She's like, me and Trina are writing a book together. So yeah, we flying here tomorrow to do. I'm like, wait, what is going on? Like, oh my god! So one of the first things we do is we do Trina's
Trina Fest,
festival,
Rockstar Music Fest.
Rockstar Music Festival, and I'm just like, oh my god, Sesali is really, really helping this woman write a book. It's crazy. I'm new here.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So that's how,
So
yeah. So like when y'all saw me and Pierre in Miami, it was because,
yes,
that connection was already established. I um wanted to experience Rockstar Fest. I mean, just to go, first of all, but also, that Rockstar Music Fest is something that's really important to Trina. And so, that was just, a part of the experience. And so it just made sense. And then obviously we were able to have her on the show. Like it
yes,
worked out.
yeah. So what was the process of, like, working with Trina? Like, did she have a clear vision for how she wanted her story to be told, or you kind of like helped her because the book was something she really never thought of? So did you say like, this is how we should tell your story because I know everything about you, or she was like, okay, you can help me write this book, but I know how I want to tell my story.
I think for Trina at first, okay, here's what y'all have to know about Trina. Trina, first of all, she's been in the industry obviously for decades, and she's a Sagittarius. Like, she's a vibe person, and I think Trina really, first of all, Trina been doing this for a while. She know how to do this, but I think she's also like, you have to build a lot of trust with her. I'll say that. Like, you have to. So I do think that at the beginning, it was more so like, I think Trina like kind of just looked at this as an interview. Like, okay, like what you want to ask me? Like, she wasn't exactly sure of where it would go and kind of how it would take shape. And then, it took us quite a long time. And then something that's also really important for people to know is that during the process of getting this book written, Trina and I were both, we both experienced some like personal tragedy. So,
Right.
my goddaughter,
Hmm.
there was a point for the entire beginning of 2022 where I was kind of traveling. It was like I was constantly on a plane, Newark, Miami, Houston, Newark, Miami, Houston. My goddaughter
God.
got really, really sick. Terminally, and then in May she passed away. I actually, one of the last times I had to kind of fly to the hospital, I flew there directly from Miami, like from Trina's house, like went to the airport, went to Houston, to be with my best friend and my goddaughter. So she passes away in May. She was only 12 years old. And then literally 2 months later, um Trina's niece is tragically killed in Miami. So that kind of like shut production of on the book down for like 6-7 months, because like it's just really hard for
Hmm.
someone to show. And I think more so for her than me, one, because like I'm the type of person, I'm a Capricorn, like I kind of throw myself into work when I'm upset. So, but I think for her it's very hard to like sit down and talk about your family and talk about, the people you're closest to in vulnerable moments when you're experiencing such a huge loss like this. And Trina was extremely
Yeah.
close to her niece. So, I think that process, that made it very, very difficult for the process, for us to just kind of get back on the horse after that. And then we felt like we were not felt like we were up against like very tight deadlines. Like, we literally, the editor Yadon, that is the editor now, is not even the editor that we started with, because over the course
Wow.
of time of just trying to get the book written, the editor who originally bought the book, shout out to LaShonda, um got a new job and like left, but Simon and Schuster wanted to keep the book. So the process was definitely difficult. The process was very, very hard. um but we got through it. And I think the story that started to form, it was like almost conversationally, because Trina would tell me something and then I would say it back to her like, okay, and then this is really this and this. And she was like, yeah, I never even thought about it like that, but like, yeah, you're right. So I would say in that, it's like Trina just told the story just straight as it is. And it's really a lot of, I think what was important what my role was to like make the connections and like make it clear how this was bigger than just like what was happening to one girl from Miami.
Right. Wow. Um. Now, of course, co-writing this book meant you spent a lot of time with Trina.
Mm.
Um, and I feel like you already knew a lot of things about her just being a Trina stan. Like, what was one thing you learned about Trina that you didn't know before?
Um, I feel like, um, okay, first of all, and it's something that like I'm comfortable saying, like we be joking about this all the time. Trina is always late, like
Oh,
chronically very late all the time. Pierre and I have also discovered this about Trina.
yeah.
Trina is always gonna be late, baby. One thing about it, like you got to tell her, and it's so funny because there's a part we were talking about her mom, and she was telling me how her mom's friends and family learned that they had to start telling her mom if it started at 5 or 6, they needed to tell her mom that it started at 4 or 5 because she was gonna be late. And I'm like, that's so funny because that's what people need to start doing with you. Like people, you got to tell Trina that it started at one time so that if you want her to be there. So I think that was one thing that was just like funny to learn. But I also think that the other thing was just it is really how, and it might be like this for a lot of celebrities, but like Trina does not spend her days thinking about how, oh, she is this great hip hop pioneer and this legend for female empowerment who has opened these doors and these doors. She is like, actually, I live my life. I show up, I go do my job, and then I go home.
Yes.
And that I think was so fascinating because it's like, how could you not know? Like you're Trina, like, and she knows she's Trina. She knows what she's accomplished and like her success and what she's been able to do for her family. But I think that it really was astounding to me that like there was so many things I would say to her and she'd just be like, oh, I never thought about it like that. And I'd be like, girl, like what? But I guess that's how you stay humble. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to say she's very humble. She was on our podcast, season 1 of our podcast, and usually big stars don't do a season 1 of.
Didn't nobody
and when she came in the
purse
booth
from nothing.
she just came in the booth with us, and literally whatever we said, she was like, okay.
Yep.
Oh, and her and Sesali just pulled up. Like, and it was like she didn't have no security. She was just like, okay, what y'all?
And to be fair, we also filmed it. We shot that episode in Miami, so like
we was in Miami. Trina, she
Trina don't need no security in Miami. She good in Miami, baby. She do not need.
But baby, she had just
we was hopping out.
Yeah,
we was hopping out of sprinters into projects with Trina, and it was just me, Trina, her brother, and her friend Kamari. Like it just us, like, and it just in the projects and a few people. Oh, hey Trina. One lady came up, was talking about, oh, your mom meant so much to me. Like, baby, when I say good in any hood, good in any hood.
Does she showcase sides of her that fans never seen before? Like, cause we see this, like, we see the baddest. So is she ever the saddest or the maddest or the?
Surprisingly, Trina is, well, if you watch Love and Hip Hop, I think you get this a little bit. But Trina actually does. Trina has dealt with a lot of tragedy. A lot. Trina has suffered a lot of loss. And I don't think people understand how much that sits with the person. And how much that stays with a person, and how it's even more difficult to deal with when you have a job that is so demanding. You have to just get back out there, keep going. So I think that's one side. And I also will say, I think something that really was coming out to me, and I think has been coming out to the world a little bit more, is like really what it was like to come up with a group of guys in hip hop. Like she was the first lady of Slip and Slide. Eve's book just came out too. I'm still not done with it. Shout out to Kathy who co-wrote that. But that's the part I'm excited to get to with Eve as well, because one of the things she does talk about is like her friendship with Eve in the book. And she talks about how important they were to each other because they were both the only girls in these cliques of men. And, hip hop in general was just so many men. And she talks about the camaraderie that the rap girls had back then. And I know that that's something that a lot of fans today have not seen because we just don't see that as much. So those are the two things that are kind of popping out for me right now. Yeah.
Oh, that's cute. Shout out to Eve. This book really goes through like her entire life. Like when you open it, it literally first of all, there's an introduction by Missy Elliott.
Period. Can we talk about the intro for Missy?
Yeah.
Can we talk about the intro for Missy? Like the fact that my name is on something with Trina's name and then Missy's name.
Cecily, that's
please.
Nuts. That's nuts.
That's insane. And let's talk about how we got the forward for Missy.
Please.
All of that coordination had to happen between her manager and I. And I don't know if you know, Missy doesn't have a regular manager. Missy's manager is Mona Scott Young. So like I had to talk to Mona Scott Young. Like that piece of it also still blows my mind. I remember I was in Portugal for my birthday last year. And that's when we were getting the forward stuff together. I get a random phone call and it's like, hey, Sesali. And I was like, hey, who is this? It's Mona. I was like,
I'm gagging. Bitch, I'm gagging.
I was gagged. Like, not be in Portugal getting a phone call from Mona. Like, talking about some, it's Mona. Girl, you can't just be calling me like that. I'm about to pass out. But yeah, having the intro from Missy is crazy. And they...
So was it like emailed to you? Like, was it
yeah,
like...
it was, yeah. They emailed it to me. And it was funny as hell too. Like, I was like, this is funny as hell. But like, yeah, and they really fuck with each other.
They have a real
and I think
friendship.
going back to your last question about like just this, I really cannot emphasize enough that like sisterhood and just like having other women in her life, whether it was her mom, whether it was her sister, whether it's her cousin Joy, whether it was the other women in the industry, her friends. She's very close with Monica. She's very close with Missy. She was very close with Eve when they first, because they basically came into the industry around the same time. So like, you know, that to me is something that was really important. And if you notice, and we talk about this on the show, Trina is the rapper that we see in community with other female rappers the most. Period. I still to this day will stand on that. And there's a big section of the book where she talks about why that is and why she takes that stance and how she feels about that I think is really, really important to share. That like she's not trying to play judge and juror. It's that she understands
what it's like.
And she understands that for a lot of people, I actually might read this section of the book.
I was just gonna say,
if I can find it. Yeah, I actually might read this because it really is important where she talks about, you know, kind of her feelings on female rappers and why she feels like she has to support them. And she's actually talking about it in the context of Rockstar Music Fest. Okay. There are so many different paths for women to take in the industry, but it's not complete freedom. People see pretty pictures and hear confident lyrics, and they don't consider how hard it is out here for these girls. They are criticized so heavily, picked apart for what they look like, held to a different lyrical standard, and constantly put in competition with other women. The commentary is nonstop, and that can be such a huge block to creativity. It's so easy for strangers to make a mockery of the art these women put their heart and passion into. Not to mention, there are plenty of shady, trifling men waiting for a chance to take advantage of them. I was blessed to step into the industry with a group of guys who always had my back, but I know a lot of women don't have that. My advice to all the women in the industry is to do your thing to the fullest. Talk your shit, feel comfortable in your skin. I'm not ever going to bend over and take a picture with my hand in my butt crack. But if that works for you, you should do it. If you want to be raunchy and ratchet as hell and shake your ass, you should do it. What's the problem? It might not work for this crew and it might not be the right cup of tea for that crew, but somebody is going to love it. You don't need to seek validation from anyone else. Do what you want to do. Do not what everybody thinks you should be doing. Remember who you are, put yourself first and go for it. Lean into the alter ego because you're going to need one when you're putting yourself out there for the public to consume you.
Wow.
Have fun with it. Have fun with it and know you can always change your mind. You are making songs, videos, and TikToks. This is not a presidential election. Yes, everything lives on the internet forever, but you are always in control of the tone you set. You can rebrand, pivot, or stop at any time. Don't take yourself too seriously or succumb to the pressure to stay the same. As long as you're confident and willing to stand 10 toes down on what you decide to do, there will still be a platform for you to put it out and make a check. And like, I think that just like, that's her attitude about the rap girls. Like, that's her attitude about the rap girls. Like, and then there's another part before that where she's basically talking about her own come up. And she's like, yeah, I know for a lot of these girls, like being in the industry and being a rapper is the difference between, you know, if this don't work out for them, they're going to have to go back to an abusive relationship. They're going to have to go back to trying to sell lashes or trying to bartend. They don't have to figure it out some type of other way. If this is the opportunity that they have in front of them right now and they taking it and they running with it, like, I'm not playing judge and juror on them on how they choose to do that.
That got me teary-eyed in the mouth.
Yeah. And I fuck with her for that. Like, like, it really, like, you know, and I get it, especially, you know, you a barb, you can get into your poetry, lyrical. It's an art form. I want to see the best art.
That just changed Cecily, my whole life just changed in that minute that you just, my whole life has just changed. Like, not even just for women. She just motivated me to do oh my God, Trina.
Yeah.
I always loved you, but oh my God. Because
her getting into the industry was like an accident. Like, Trina never said, that's the craziest thing about Trina's story. And maybe that's the thing that I think people don't realize and don't know. Because, you know, Trina talks a lot about, you know, being a legend at this point and doing this for a long time. So but like, Trina did not set out to become a rapper. It actually happened quite unexpectedly. She was actually very reluctant and very hesitant to do it.
Mm-hmm.
She was like embarrassed. She was very shy. She literally had to kind of take a year of just, you know, learning how to even do the shit. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, I've achieved more success and made more money doing this than like any of the other plans that I would have made for myself. Like, she wanted to do real estate. Like, you know how long it would have took her to make the same amount of money doing real estate that she, you know, or doing anything, you know, a lot of, and especially at that
time.
Sell
houses. She was going to get her real estate license and all types of
and ain't nothing wrong with that. If that's your calling, do that, put in that time. But for her, it was like, this came about and it happened so fast. And I also think that, you know, without giving too much away, I will say she had to make that decision at a very, very like pivotal point in her life. I would go so far as to say is like, it was a moment where she was kind of lost and she was in she was trying to figure out how to come out of a really dark time in her life. And she met this fork in the road. And so, you know, that also kind of, I think, influenced, because I will say, you know, and I actually want to ask Trina this, because I often wonder if she was like in a better place in her life at that time, if she would have ever made this decision. Yeah, like, I wonder if she would have ever made Nan and would have ever could. Well, because even after she did Nan, she was still like, okay, Ted, that's a CEO of Slip and Slide. Ted, stop calling me. I'm not going to be no rapper. I know I did y'all little song, but like, stop calling me. But like, I do wonder if she would have made that decision if life, you know, was looking different for her at that time. So yeah, it's her story is so fascinating because it makes sense in a lot of the decisions that she's made over her life.
Another thing, the book literally goes from when she was younger till now. It talks about pretty much everything.
Before she was born, honestly. Like,
yeah. And it has a lot of family, like she talks about cousins, of course, her mom, her grandma, like she talks about every, like, is family like super important to her? Like,
Yes. Yes. And just like people who are close. So like Pinky, and what's crazy, yeah, Pinky is her best friend. They met in like seventh grade or something, which is so funny because it reminded me so much of me and Bucci. But yeah, family is everything. Trina is Caribbean. She comes from a very big
um,
family, and her family has strong roots. So, like Pierre said, like the book start from like Trina being little. Really, the book start even before Trina was born because the story of Trina is the story of Miami, is the story of her family, and the story of her family is the story of Miami, and about um, they immigrate her grandfather immigrated from the Bahamas to Miami, built the house that her family, that's still in her family, that she grew up going to, that her grandma lived in, like bare hands, like in the neighborhood. um so like when you hear Trina say like things like from the womb I've been rich, it's like no, because like her family had already built strong roots and were finding ways to be successful. Like there were so many entrepreneurs, the legal ones, not even just the illegal ones, right? Like the legal entrepreneurs, like, who were getting into all different types of businesses. So like I think her family just, yeah, like and it was
yeah,
big.
because
She had
people
one of them
own
families that was so
cornerstones and
big.
everything.
Yeah, like when you got them big families, and I can't relate to this, but when you got them big families, like you don't really need other people because your family is everything. Like they would have these big ass parties in the park, and it would just be a whole family, and it's like you would think the shit was open to the public. Like, so yeah, I think family is like obviously like one of the biggest things, and her mom was her best friend. So,
Yeah, she
um,
talks about her mom a lot in the book.
and she learned a
Um,
lot from her mom. In a lot of ways, Trina was set up to be that girl because her
she
mama was
was.
already
Hmm.
that girl first. Like really, Trina is that bitch junior to her mother, who was really that bitch. Like Miss Nessa, I think was is Trina's biggest idol. If you were to ask me, I think it's definitely her mom. Like so.
One of the things, just from knowing you personally and also like having spent some time with Trina, I see a lot of similarities in the way that y'all hustle. Do you think y'all
What you
share that? And
mean?
like y'all just like, it's called Go Getter, but I wish it was another name. Like y'all will do it. You'll be like,
Gumption.
okay.
Yes. Yes.
It's that's the word, gumption.
I think that what me and Trina share in common in that regard is a little bit of fearlessness.
Yeah. Oh
Like
well, that's
Trina,
what it is.
like Trina will try some shit. Y'all, huh. And y'all will hear about all the shit she tried, okay, in this book. Okay. But like Trina will try some shit. And I think I will too. Uh I think that that's the biggest commonality in terms of our hustles, that like Trina is not afraid. Like Trina has be skydiving. I was like, girl, like you is jumping out of planes. Like that ain't even in the book. That's just some shit she told me in passing. I was like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, like baby, that's that Sagittarius shit. Oh yeah. So I think um in some ways we are both very fearless. Yeah.
Before we go to Ask Last, what? Because I want to get into some deep stuff into the like patrons. Y'all go get a deeper. Like I want to get the stuff that ain't in the book. Um, but what is your takeaway from? You have another book on the shelf. It just released two days ago, and it's from the memoir of your idol, like someone
Yeah.
you just grew up loving.
Mm-hmm.
Set like you just right here, just like that's not like you're not gagging. Like
I
what
am
are you
no
taking
Pierre. I
away
am,
from it?
and
Like I can't even look at you the same. I'm scared to even curse you out anymore. Like what do
I
you
feel
mean?
you. And I feel you because it really is so surreal. And the fact that it was like, and then when you in it, when you in shit, it just is part of your regular life. So you can't gag when you in it because it's like, yeah, this is just the job you like. This manuscript got to get done, right? Like we got to write it, we got to get it done. But it is like it's the looking back, it's the looking at the cover of this and seeing Trina's face, Trina's name, Missy's name, my name. That it's like, wait, like no, like that happened, like, and I don't know. I have a problem with self promotion. No, I have a problem with it. I don't think I'm great at self promotion because I do
Chicago.
personally feel like if I wanted to, I could pop my shit. I don't feel like that's some Chicago shit because I feel like Chicago people love popping their shit. I think I'm more the person, I like somebody else to tell me, oh, you going crazy. Like I would prefer not to say it and I want you to see it.
I'm going to say it.
And you tell me, yeah, you tell me I'm going crazy.
Anymore.
But like, yeah, I mean, I recognize that I could pop my shit. And I wonder if maybe I should, because maybe that would help me feel more in it and like excited. Because I am excited, like don't get me wrong. But it's like also from an artist perspective, like as a writer, I never looked at being a writer as being an artist until very recently when I realized that like, oh, I'm an artist because my work is dictated by like when the ideas come. But like I'm working on I'm trying to write a novel now, and it's like, oh yeah, but like that's my work project now. I don't know what's gonna happen with it, but I feel called to write that and I have to write it. And that's just what's gonna happen. And like that is that's what makes you an artist, is that when your life is dictated by the ideas. And I guess I would say same with this book, like my, wanting to like tell this story, but like I don't know, like now it's just like it's almost like what's next, like what else can I do? And now I don't know, ironically, now that I've done this, I really do feel like the way Trina has always made me feel, which is like even more confident, even more empowered, even and can do anything and gotta do anything, because now it's like, oh well, I done already wrote the book of the baddest, so the next shit that I do, like it ain't too many people that I look up to in that way where I would want to like write their book, right? Like, so the next shit is just gonna be something that I wrote that's just for me, and like I have to make it good and it has to be my shit. So like, I am feeling like recharged in that area. Wow. In terms of the writing shit. So yeah, that's kind of like the takeaway for me. It is crazy though. I'm not even gonna hold you. Like
it's so crazy.
It is crazy. I'm sitting here looking at, and then I'm looking at the back, like Mona Sky Young wrote a little blurb for us. It says, a reminder that with grit and grace, we can all rise to greatness. The blurbs ain't on your advanced copy. This is the real hardcover. This is the real hardcover of the book. This is the version of the book that got the pictures in it, friend. Okay. Like the OG pictures of Trina.
That like is crazy.
Like crazy. look at Trina. Like, so yeah.
I'm so proud of you. Oh my God. And it went so quick. You remember when
it was not quick.
Let me just starting. I'm saying it when you first started and you was like, this ain't gonna come out till like 2024. I was like, damn.
It was supposed to come out last year, but as I mentioned, it was the tragedies and stuff. And in the pandemic, it was just the process overall took like 3 years. It took like 3 years to get this, which is, for comparison, I wrote my book in like 10 months.
But when did it come out?
I got my deal in November. I guess, yeah. And then between the time it came out, so I would say from deal to when it came out was 2 years. Was 2 years, yeah. But okay, yeah. And for us, from deal to bookshelf was 3 years, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a long process, but it's fine. And now it's here. It's like, damn, like it's here. I will just say though, too, for people who work in the industry, I don't know. I think I'm grateful for this feeling that it just feels regular. It feels like work, because that is what it is. And you really have to do it for that, because if I just, at the beginning of every project, I get really excited about it. And then the more and more I get into it, it's like, okay, this is just work. Like, this is what I have to do. I have to get to the end. I have to turn it in. And then I have to just see what it's going to do. But at the very beginning of every project, you're always very excited. And you're thinking about all of the possibilities of what it can do. And it can be the biggest thing ever. And if you are a person who is really like riding on the names and the what you did and how big it is, then like you actually will be very disappointed if it doesn't.
And you in it for the wrong reason.
You're in it for the wrong reasons, and you're gonna be disappointed when the reality is just that it's just like anticlimactic. Like, or not anticlimactic, but it's just like, yep, and then you still have to go to work again. You still have to like none of this is like life changing, gonna make you a billionaire. Trina not even a billionaire. You know what I mean? Like none of this is, it's work. Like all of us are doing work. Like even, this is the entertainment business. So we are in the business of telling grandiose stories and making it feel like magic and, all of that. But even Trina, okay, this is the next step of my career. I am going to be telling my story in my words. Like it's work for her too. It's a different type of work. It's a new type of work, but that's what it is. And so I don't know. I guess this is my job. Like I'm a real writer. I'm a real writer. Period. That's what it is.
Don't play with
I'm a real writer.
Don't play with my bitch. I'm so proud of you. Patreons and patrons, keep listening. I want to get deeper into the book and what's not in the book. What y'all leave out? She talks about rappers. She talks about relationship pleasure.
I don't want to have to be so professional. I don't want to have to be so professional all the time with Dana.
You know what?
Get somebody else to do it, but invite me to the book release.
Patrons, for all of the people who got Patron, they just found out what was in or out the book. Make sure you subscribe to get that tea. It's only $5 a month.
Or
is it $5 a month? Yeah,
it's $5 a month. Or you can read it yourself. If you purchase the Baddest, you can buy the book. It's on sale everywhere that books are sold. The Baddest by Trina Taylor with Sesali Bowen.
Is there an audio
introduction
book?
From Missy Elliott? There, there will be. I think there's going to be audiobook. Yeah.
Oh, Trina, get your Grammy from reading your audiobook.
So yes, buy the book. It's out everywhere books are sold. And I actually do want to hear y'all's thoughts. And I want to know who else book y'all think I should write. That's what Pierre asked me.
Oh yeah.
It asked Les. Who else book y'all think I should write? Thank y'all so much for.
We so proud of you, Sesali. We so proud of you.
That's what I was about to say. Thank y'all for all of the support. People who have just been reaching out, saying that they, are proud. Because people really do know that I love Trina. Anybody who's read my old articles, baby, you only got to be around me for at least an hour to know it's gonna come up in some way, shape, or form that like Trina raised me. I love Trina. So I do think that people are genuinely proud of me, and that does feel good to know that people are proud of me for like seeing something like this through. So I really do appreciate y'all. And if you love Trina as much as me, you'll probably like this podcast. This podcast is only about the rap girls and rap gays. So give us those 5-star ratings, write those reviews, follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow the show at Purse First Show. You can follow me at Bad Fat Black Girl. You can follow Trina at Trina Rockstar. Oh, yeah. You can follow Pierre at Prince Charming P. And with that, we'll holla. Purse First is supported by Critical Minded, an initiative to invest in cultural critics of color, co-founded by the Nathan Cummins Foundation and the Ford Foundation. Y'all OGs just like Trina at this point, period.